Hello, Year 11. Today we are going to be looking at the concept of a composite function and looking at how we can evaluate these using numbers. In the final lesson, we will be looking at how we can do this with algebra. So here I'm going to quickly go through the answers to the starter activity. If you're wanting to get straight into today's content and the examples, I'll put a timestamp in the description below so you can skip through this. So in this activity, we've been asked to evaluate f of 4. So all I have to do is substitute 4 into each of these expressions. Well, 4 cubed is 4 times 4 times 4. That's 64. Take away 10. So that one up there is 54. 2 to the power x plus 3. Well, 2 to the power 4 means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And that is 16 plus 3 is 19. This means 6 lots of the square root of 4. It's not going to be a third because we can do the square root of 4. Okay. Square root of 4 is 2. So the answer to this is 12. Or, if anyone's being clever, the square root of 4 is actually also minus 2, so it could be negative 12. Be careful with this one, 3x squared. You have to do the squaring first because of bid maths. So you do 4 squared is 16 times 3, and that is 48. This one over here, 6 divided by x, is just 6 divided by 4, and that's 1.5 or 1.5 if you prefer. This one looks like fun. It is 1 plus 4 to the power of 4. Well, 1 plus 4 is 5, and 5 to the power 4, 5 times 5 times 5 times 5, I believe, is 625. Finally, 8 to the power x to the negative half. Now, just like 3x squared, we're going to have to work out this bit first. Negative a half. Well, first of all, the half is the same as the square root, but the negative means you then do the reciprocal. And there will be another clever answer here. But I'll start with the positive answer. So we know that the square root of 4 is 2. The reciprocal of 2 is a half. So we have to do 8 times a half. And 8 times a half is 4. So when you put 4 in, 4 comes out. Let's just do the other answer. So yeah, technically there is a second answer. The square root of 4 is also negative 2. The reciprocal of negative 2 is negative a half. So it's going to be negative 4. So the aim for today, our objective, is to evaluate a composite function. So if you've managed to print out one of my note sheets, that's great. If you've not, I'm afraid you're just going to have to write these things down. So first of all, a composite function is a function of another function. So it is a function of a function. And the way that we will write this is using several letters. So for example, f, g, x means f of g of x. So it's a function of another function. We've got function f, we've also got function g. This will make more sense when we do some questions in a moment. But the thing that is super important is the order. If you have f of g of x, you do g of x first, and then you do the function f afterwards. And you might think, well, that's a little bit odd because it says f first. You can almost think of that in another bracket. So it's f of g of x. You do g of x first, and then you work out f of that. So all we're doing today is evaluating. So all we are doing is substituting in numbers. So for example 1, I've got my two functions. F of x is x cubed take away 10, and g of x is 5 take away x. It says calculate f of g of 2. And we're going to work out g of 2 first, and whatever the answer is to that, that is what we will then substitute into f of x. So if I work out g of 2, g of 2 is going to be 5 take away 2, and that is 3. And then that is the value that I am going to substitute into f of x. So I know that fg of 2 is now 3 cubed, my answer to g of 2. 3 cubed, take away 10. 3 cubed, 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. Take away 10 is 17. Now, just to show you that the order is super important, let's just do it the other way around and see what happens. So this time I'm going to work out f of 2 first, because I'm doing g of f of 2. Now, 2 cubed, take away 10. Well, 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2, and that's 8. Take away 10 is negative 2. So then if I'm doing g of f of 2, I have to substitute my value to f of 2 into g. So I'm doing 5 subtract negative 2. And that is 7. So you can immediately see, if I do my substitution in the wrong order, I will get different answers. And that might be one mistake that you make today. Let's look at another example. So I've got two functions. I'm sticking with f's and g's, but you might see different letters today. You've also seen perhaps we sometimes use the letter h. These are very typical letters we use for functions. I've got f of x is 10 take away x all squared, and g of x is 3x plus 12. And the first thing that we're going to calculate is f of g of negative 2. So which function am I substituting negative 2 into first? I hope you've got it right. We are going to do g of negative 2 first. And g of negative 2 is 3 times negative 2. That would be a negative 6. I'll do a bit of working out. Plus 12. And negative 6 plus 12 is positive 6. If I then substitute that into f to get my f of g of negative 2, I'm doing 10 take away 6 squared. Well, 10 take away 6 is 4, and 4 squared is 16. Now, sometimes we might use the same function twice. G of negative 2 just means I'm going to substitute negative 2 into g, get an answer, and then substitute that answer again into g. Well, we've already done g of negative 2 a moment ago. It was 6. So if I want to do g of negative 2, I now need to take my answer to g of negative 2, which was 6, and substitute it back into here again. So I'm now going to be doing 3 times 6, which is 18, add 12. So the answer to g of negative 2 would be 30. Let's try f of negative 2. So I'm sticking with the same variable to begin with, but these numbers could also change. You won't always be doing the same number. So this time let's have a look at f. Okay, so f of negative 2. Just going to have to be a little bit careful with my signs, because I'm doing 10 take away negative 2, and then I'm squaring it. Well, 10 take away negative 2 is 12, and squared is 144. So that is the answer to f of negative 2. And then I'm going to resubstitute that in. We might need our calculators here, because I've now got to do 10 take away 144. That was my f of negative 2. and square that. It's going to be whatever negative 134 all squared is. And I've got that as 17,956. So if you do find you need your calculator for one or two questions today, feel free. Just use your common sense. Try and do as much in your head as you can. Now we're going to do g of f of negative 2. Well, we've already worked out f of negative 2 a moment ago. That was 144. So to do g of f of negative 2, I'm now substituting 144 into function g. So 3 lots of 144. Again, I'm going to use my calculator for this one. Is 432. And plus another 12 would be 444. Let's look at one final example. Given f of x equals 5x take away 1 over 2, and g of x equals 2 plus the square root of x, work out the values of f, g of 9. Okay, so I hope you were listening to me when I read that one out, because there was a huge clue in this question. Work out the values. So this links a little bit back to the starter activity where, remember, the square root of a positive number has two answers. So we're going to start by doing g of 9. And g of 9 is 2 plus the square root of 9. So there's two possible answers there. We've got 2 plus the positive square root of 9, which is 3. So that answer would be 5. And we've also got the other answer, where we have the negative square root of 9, which would be plusing negative 3. And that answer would be negative 1. So if we now work out f of g of 9 using 5, we're going to have 25 take away 1 divided by 2. 25 take away 1 is 24. 24 divided by 2 is 12. So that's one answer. If we then use our negative solution for g of 9, we're going to have negative 1 times 5, which would be negative 5. Take away 1 is negative 6. And negative 6 divided by 2 would be negative 3. So today, the questions that you're going to do come courtesy of Corbett Maths. You'll need to go back to my instructions. There is a link in the instructions for you to follow and several questions for you to try. I've also put a link in to the answers, but once again, these are just the final answers, not working out. So if there's a question that you're not sure about, that you want some help on, just ask in the teacher channel, please.